Hi everyone, welcome back to It's Revival Time with Emmanuel Yakana. Today I want us to talk about Joseph. I've been reading the story of Joseph again this week and I've just been so encouraged. And I think the theme that keeps on coming as a summary of his story is this: God with us makes the difference. God with us makes the difference. Okay, for context, Joseph is the youngest of 12 brothers. At 17, he gets these dreams from the Lord, shares it with his brothers, and his brothers kind of get jealous of his dreams and end up selling him into slavery. Joseph arrives in Egypt in the house of the captain of Pharaoh's guard. And so that's where we are going to start reading today, okay? So we are in Genesis 39, and the Bible says this: When Joseph was taken to Egypt by the Ishmaelite traders, he was purchased by Potiphar, an Egyptian officer. Potiphar was captain of the guard for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. The Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the home of his Egyptian master. Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything he did. This pleased Potiphar, so he soon made Joseph his personal attendant. He put him in charge of his entire household and everything he owned. So, right away, we get right away in the thick of it because Joseph is, like I said, he's sold into this country that he's never been before. The culture is definitely different, and he's a slave. But even as he's there, God is with him. From the moment he gets into his master's house, God is with him. And not only is God with Joseph, but it's noticeable that God is with him. Joseph is successful in everything that he does. And the Bible is clear. It's not that Joseph was successful because he had a bright mind, because he was young, because he was strong. No. His success lied in the fact that God himself was with him. And even his master was able to notice that. So God with us makes the difference. No matter where we find ourselves in, no matter the assignment we have, no matter the place God takes us. For some of us, you probably are an international student and you're living in the United States and you're a child of God. Know that God is with you. For other of us, you probably are in this workplace that is stressful and that is very overwhelming at times. Know that God is with you. For other of us, you might be going through things in your life and you just don't know how you're going to make it out of it. God is with you. I hope that this is a real encouragement for you. But I want to pause here because one might say, well, of course, everything is going great for Joseph. I mean, he's in the house of the captain of the guard of Pharaoh. Like, what can go wrong? Everything, like, he's probably well fed. Even if he's a slave, he's probably well taken care of and all of that. Well, things end up turning a little south for him. And not just a little, because Joseph is thrown into prison. It's like, you've already been sold and now you're taken into prison. And he's not taken into prison for something that he did. He's actually accused falsely. And so I want us to read that as well. And we're still in Genesis 39, but now we're reading verse 19. But for context, once again, Joseph is in that house and he's serving his master Potiphar, and he's successful in everything that he does. And Potiphar's wife starts to notice how handsome Joseph is. And so she's tempting him, wanting to sleep with him. And Joseph, because he fears the Lord, refuses. Not only does he fear the Lord, but he also wants to honor his master. So, of course, he wants nothing to do with her. And so one day, as she attempts to grab him, he actually runs away. And so she ends up keeping part of his clothing with him. And of course, when his master comes, she tells the story her way, and Joseph is thrown into prison. And I want us to read from verse 19. Potiphar was furious when he heard his wife's story about how Joseph had treated her. So he took Joseph and threw him into the prison where the king's prisoners were held, and there he remained. But the Lord was with Joseph in prison and showed him his faithful love. And the Lord made Joseph a favorite with the prison warden. Before long, the warden put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners and over everything that happened in the prison. I mean, come on. Once again, not only is God with Joseph, but it's noticeable that he is. So I'm not overlooking the fact that Joseph is in prison. Of course, this is an unpleasant situation. Joseph is accused falsely. He's thrown into prison for something he did not do. But even then, God shows him his faithfulness. God shows him his love. When he's going through this very hard time, God is there with him. And even there, he is given administrative responsibilities. It's like, yes, you're there in that hole, but I will still set you apart from your peers. I will still set you apart from everybody else because you are mine. That's like God putting this distinction between Joseph and everybody else in that space. And it's so noticeable that he's put in charge of other prisoners, right? And as we read the story, we see that even in that position, he's successful because in verse 23, the Bible says, the warden had no more worries because Joseph took care of everything. The Lord was with him and caused everything he did to succeed. So even then, we see again how successful Joseph is, not because, he's the youngest out there, but because the Lord is with him. And the Lord causes everything he does to succeed. The key of Joseph's success is that God is with him at every moment of his life. When he's in this season where everything seems good in Potiphar's house, still when he's in that prison for something he didn't do, God never abandoned him. All along, God is with him and he makes him successful. And then long story short, as we read even further, Joseph ends up interpreting those dreams for the Pharaoh's cupbearer and this other servant in Pharaoh's house that end up being thrown in prison too. And finally, Pharaoh himself has that dream, and this cupbearer finally remembers Joseph, and Joseph is called into Pharaoh's house, and now he gets to interpret the dream for Joseph. And he gets to interpret the dream for Pharaoh, And so when Pharaoh asks Joseph if Joseph can interpret his dreams because of what the cupbearer had said, Joseph says this. We are now in Genesis 41, verse 16, and it says, "It is beyond my power to do this," Joseph replied, "but God can tell you what it means and set you at ease." So before Joseph can, before anyone thinks what Joseph does is from his own power, Joseph says clearly, this is not in my power. Only God can do this, right? And so afterwards, Joseph interprets the dream for Pharaoh. And when he's done, he suggests a way that Pharaoh can then tackle this famine that's going to take the whole land of Egypt, and to make preparation so that nobody suffers during that hard time. And Pharaoh says this, "Can we find anyone else like this man, so obviously filled with the Spirit of God?" Like, this is so encouraging because if you read it, you notice that God always made it so clear that he was with Joseph. And it was so obvious that everyone around could notice that he was with Joseph. So Joseph ends up, being in charge of all Egypt, for those that don't know the end of the story. And later on, his family comes to Egypt and they can stay there because he's the new governor and all of that. But I hope that the story of Joseph is an encouragement for you, because no matter the season of life you find yourself in, God with you makes the difference. It is not on your own power. It is not because you're too smart. It is not because you deserve it. It is not because you're strong. It is not even because you're young. God with you makes the difference. So I hope that you look at situations you find yourself in and remind yourself that God is with you. And if God be for you, who can be against you? Have a blessed weekend.